Howdy y'all, and welcome to the Stay Creative Podcast, a show dedicated to celebrating independent artists and sharing their art and story. I have found that when we listen to a person talk about their passion, we can take some of it for our own. So this show is also dedicated to you, the listener, not only becoming a fan of the guest's work, but also taking another step towards growing as an artist and loving the artist you already are. The world is a better place with you and your creations in it, and I am grateful for this time that I get to share my current favorite artists with my future favorite artists. Today I'm talking with three one-man bands. They write the songs, record the music, and do a lot of the production on their own. This first song you'll hear is by the FUs. In the middle you will hear one by Hankus, and then at the end is MagicJones. Be sure to check out the show notes as always for links to these artists' work, song titles, and spelling of band names.
Waking up, get overwhelmed.
Well, first, I want to thank all three of you so much for agreeing to be on the show and to share not only your music, but also your story and your journey. But before we get into the music and more of the details of your process and things like that, I'd like to give you each a moment to introduce yourself, introduce your project.
Hello, I'm Hankus. I'm from Toronto. I like to say I live on the west coast of Lake Ontario because it sounds a lot cooler than it is. I've been doing music for a while, mainly through Reddit, I guess Instagram, SoundCloud. I've just been kind of like posting more there. And, as I improve, I get more people listening and then getting more engaged in the community. Music-wise, I've always been influenced by a lot of different genres. Jumping between different genres keeps everything really fresh, and there's always stuff that you can transfer over from one to another. Bands that have influenced me to do music were Green Day. I think they were like my gateway to music. Tokyo Police Club, and I really like Rammstein as well as movies. Like I listened to a lot of orchestral music as a kid.
I have to agree completely with jumping between projects and styles. I could procrastinate with a video game, or I could procrastinate with GarageBand and make a tune.
I really like that bouncing between songs, styles, and just even different hobbies. It's kind of like that. I like to call it productive procrastination.
Yeah, procrastination.
That's great.
Yeah. MagicJones, why don't you introduce yourself and your project to us?
My name's Jason. I'm the producer. Well, yeah, everything of MagicJones. And the project started about 3 years ago. I got serious about working on music every day. In March of 2017, I had a friend come over to my house, and we had just discovered a guy named Leo Moracchioli on YouTube. He runs Frog Leap Studios in Norway, and he did an amazing heavy metal cover of Adele's Hello. Unbeknownst to me, he also had found it, and we couldn't talk enough about it, and he put his hand on my shoulder and said, Jason, you could do that. And inside my mind, I mean, all of my inferiorities and weaknesses and shortcomings just like came straight to the forefront. I'm like, no. And I slept on that a little bit, and it took about a week. And I thought, you know what? There's no harm in trying. And so I made a deal with myself that I would work on music as much as I could during that time. And I ended up writing and producing a song every week for 2 years. That was 104 songs. The growth, of course, during that time, I didn't even realize how much. I learned how to play guitar. I learned how to play bass. I started drumming when I was 14, so I already had drums down. I had begun audio production in 2001. My drive includes all of it. Some people, the musician part of it, they really like, but the production, they don't like. I think the only thing that I don't like is doing video production because it doesn't really have to do with music.
Yeah.
During those 2 years from 2017 to 2019, I wrote a song every week, and then I slowed down a little bit after that. I am just now finishing up the video to my 152nd song.
Oh my goodness.
In the project. It sounds like a lot, but it's just like a sandbox. It's like a playground. And when I start a song, I finish it, no matter how bad I hate it. I started with covers. The first year, I only did covers. That was helpful because it took a lot of stuff off of my plate. I didn't have to come up with lyrics or melody or chord progression. So those were already defined, and that made producing songs that quickly a lot easier. And then I think it was November of 2017 was when I wrote my first original for this project.
I didn't know that about you. I did realize today, looking at your Spotify, it just kept scrolling. I was like, what are all these songs?
Don't scroll too far, honestly. There's like maybe 5 or 6 that are good that I really like, and then the rest of them are just like, take it or leave it.
My name is Matthew Estevez. I'm 23, and the FUs is my project. I started writing music, I think 7 years ago, almost to this day. I think I found my passion for playing music genuinely from playing Beatles Rock Band and Guitar Hero and all that kind of stuff. When I was, I think in middle school, I would turn like no fail mode on the drums and then go to my actual drums and then pretend to play the game. So I'm like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. I mean, I grew up listening to the Beatles and all that kind of stuff. So just surrounded by just genuine quality music growing up. And my older brother plays bass and guitar. We played music together and played in a band a few times. I was kind of just like, oh, I want to do a little bit more than drumming. So I quote unquote learned how to play guitar. I didn't necessarily, I wouldn't say I learned how to play until like recently. When I wanted to release music on like SoundCloud, I struggled coming up with the name, and my mom actually came up with the name the FUs, which it is technically supposed to mean like the F, like the fuck yous, but it's cringe kind of saying that now. But yeah, I kind of kept on doing my thing until now. I'm in Nashville, just graduated college and just hanging out. But yeah, my early influences are just like Foo Fighters, Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, Beatles, Rage Against the Machine. With my album in October, I had stuff on my Spotify and all my other accounts beforehand, and I just wiped it because I felt like I had finally found who I am and what I want to represent as an artist and all that stuff. So I just wiped everything, and here I am.
Was it a specific moment that made you decide to take that step?
So I had my goal of recording an album before I graduated, which was right in May. And then when COVID hit, I couldn't really go to the studio. So we kind of backtracked that for a few months. Before then, my latest release was like a year or two ago. Hearing my production and quality of songwriting at the level that it was recorded at, it just like blew the rest of the music out of the water. And I didn't want somebody to hear my earlier stuff and have that be the first taste of it. I want to put my best foot forward first.
To borrow a cliche, it's like a blessing and a curse, right. That we have the accessibility to just release every single idea we make. You don't need a record label anymore to get your sounds into other people's ears. But at the same time, over the last 10 years of making music, I've written songs that I hate now,
Yeah.
I'd love for each of you to just take a moment to break down some of your process.
I don't know how many people I've met that are the same way as me. I cannot write consistently. I sometimes write once a month, sometimes like 30 times a month, sometimes once every 3 months. I don't like forcing myself to finish stuff. I just feel like I put too much into it to have it be forced. In my room right here, I set my guitar up, plug it into my DI, I open up Logic, have a bunch of preset amps that I like. If I want to play guitar, I start looping like a drum sample. I do the same with bass. If I want to hop on drums and kind of try and come up with something, bring it back to my computer and loop it. Or honestly, sometimes there's just like a million voice memos of me just mumbling in my car, trying to remember what I said in my voice memo. I always tried to write an entire song at once. That just stressed me out. I couldn't come up with a verse and then a bridge and then a chorus. I was like, I need to come up with everything at once. And if I can't, I'm just going to stop. I've been working on that. And now that has resulted in, I think there's almost 200 ideas, like 20-second ideas from the past month of just unfinished riffs. And so I kind of just sit on them. And when I go back and if I like something, I try and add something else. Then like a week later, I add something else. And then I just flesh out the ones that are almost songs. I don't have too much gear. I have a bass, a guitar, and an acoustic, and my drum set. I just fiddle around until something's good.
Whenever I hear somebody's got 200 in progress pieces of ideas, I say, "Oh my goodness, what are you talking about? How do all 200 of those not keep you up at night?" So I think it's
trust me, they do.
Yeah. I think it's a sign of maturity and also just equanimity. Like you're going to produce better things if you're not constantly stressing.
My process, my goodness. So it's really important for me, for some reason, to follow a song through no matter what. I don't quite know why. Maybe it's for fear of it becoming something that could have been great, then just lies on my hard drive for decades or so. I can't remember the last time that I began a song that I didn't go all the way through. That's something about it. It's also very important that I work on music every day, even if it's late at night and I haven't worked on music, then I'll fire up the DAW on the system and work for 15 minutes on one. Sometimes I start with a beat. Mostly I start with a chord progression, either with guitar or piano. I've started with synths, I've started with lyrics, I've started with melodies, and every instrument that I play has been the source of some inspiration. I have songs where I have not touched my acoustic kit and have done nothing but electronic drums, and I thought for sure the first time I did that I would hate it. And in fact, quite the opposite. It was a song called The Whisper, and it has purely synth drums, and it's wildly different from my norm, but I like that song. I can listen to that one. One time I was just sitting here at my cockpit, and I had a rhythm going with my feet, and it's kind of weird, but I didn't have any socks on or anything, so it was just my skin against the wood, and I was mesmerized by the sound, and I was like, if I stop this and grab a mic, there's a chance I might not be able to do this anymore. And so I stopped, ran, grab a mic, put it at my feet, and luckily I was able to get the same rhythm, and that was a song. That was the conception of a song. Inevitably, each song speaks to some part of me, even if I'm writing it for someone else. Something that happens much more often than I thought it would is that I learn something about myself after the song is written that I didn't know before.
Do you have an example of that you're comfortable sharing?
When I started this in 2017, I didn't start with like an idea of what I wanted to say. Very rarely do I start with something that I want to say before I start the song. But the theme that seems to be woven throughout every song that I write is the inconquerable divine human spirit that is in each one of us. To conquer, to overcome, to rise, to fight, to vanquish whatever ails us. That is something that I didn't know. I'd written probably a dozen or more songs until I started to realize, hey, all of these songs that I'm writing are like, let's go do this, and we can overcome, and life is beautiful. And I had no idea that was in me before I started writing.
Songs that I end up feeling like, kind of wrote themselves seem to be talking to me. They're saying something that I am the one who needs to hear. And obviously, when we put those out there, other people think, wow, this is a song to me. I'm the one who needs to hear this, So we make that music because we're in some way like trying to remind ourselves.
You are so spot on. Spot on. And it is so strange to think that a song might be writing itself for you. I'll listen to a song that I wrote, a couple of weeks or a couple of months ago and realize a level deeper of what was going on inside me that I didn't even realize at that time that came through to the lyrics to teach me something at a later date. I'm not into the mysticism much. It sounds like I'm, going off the deep end, but it's just, it's something that I didn't expect. That
for folks listening right now, we're all doing yoga. Yeah, man, that's cool. That's cool. I often compare songwriting to journaling. Like the longer you put pen to paper, the more of yourself's going to come out.
Each song has become a journal in a point in time over the last 3 years. It's like it's like a timestamp of, hey, this is where I was musically, lyrically, emotionally. A song can speak a whole lot about a person.
Songwriting for me, I think started as soon as I started playing guitar, because I would sit down, play stuff, noodle around. I'm like, this is cool. Or I'd look at a band that I like and, I'm like, oh, I want to write a song like this. Any form of art, you're really starting off kind of almost like emulating your influences. And then over time, you kind of learn your own style. A lot of the music that I'm doing now, it's stuff that I've been writing for the last 10 years or so. And actually like learning how to do producing, that was a really big thing. That's something that I guess kind of came out of necessity. Your song can be good, but like you also got to make it sound good audio-wise. And that's a little bit of a mission on its own to learn. Now, like Magic said earlier, I'm kind of like viewing production as an artistic thing now. It's something that's a lot more enjoyable.
Record companies aren't knocking to pay somebody to make this sound better. I need to learn how to do this on my own. I just produce to make it sound clean. But your production, man, it like bounces back and forth. It feels like you are being an artist even with the production. You don't have to love it. You can wait for someone to do it for you. But man, if you can learn how to love your own art, that is a beautiful thing.
I wanted to touch up on what both of you said with always finishing a song.
Yeah, you're kind of our tiebreaker here.
I graduated 3 years ago, and then when you're in school, you have no time for nothing but school. So like I would always noodle on guitar and like record random snippets. I actually like went through like something like 200 or 300 files with these like random clips and found some song ideas that I'm like, this is really cool, and then build on it. And I find it kind of makes it feel like someone sent you like, hey man, here's this riff I have, what do you want to do with it? And then you kind of expand on it. And I think that is a really fun thing to do. it's almost like this illusion of collaboration. Some of the ways we songwrite is also kind of like, here's this riff, like, what do you think? And then it's like, I've been doing this with myself for a couple of years now. So, you know.
Yeah.
I started on piano when I was 3 and then went into guitar around 12. Then everyone played guitar and I was like, let's learn how to play bass. I don't even know why. I just wanted a bass because I had 4 strings. I'm like, cool.
Yeah. There's no B. There's no B on a bass.
Oh, yeah. And
So much
no,
work.
I remember now. It's because I kept dropping the pick, and then I looked up like how to like not drop your pick, and so I was like, learn bass, and I'm like, yeah, let's do it. Ironically, now most of the times I play bass with a pick and guitar with my fingers.
Oh,
Because
man.
it makes sense to me. Like, I don't know, the bass has more tone, has less strings. You have like the pick, and then guitar, you have. I mean, with your thumb, you have 5 fingers, and you have 6 strings. It's kind of like makes
Yeah.
really accessible. I'll write songs that are completely start to finish, bass and drums, and then like I sit down with my guitar, and then I'll record software layers. Typically, that kind of leads to more guitar layers and essentially just like more complex guitar parts than if I was to start like with
Yeah.
guitar. There's like a magic to it, but then like I guess like as I start doing production, I kind of like realize like there's that low end role you need to fill sometimes to keep the rhythm going.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and then another kind of interesting way that I create songs is sometimes it just straight up just comes into my mind. Like the example I want to bring up is that Math Gaze song. So I had these 2 separate ideas, one that's like more shoegaze, one that's kind of this like Midwest math rock. I was out for a jog and like just playing in my head, and then like one went into the other. I'm like, what if I fuse these into Math Gaze? I'm like, that'd be ridiculous. I'm like, let's do it. And then yeah, it's like did the thing in like one evening. I'm like, okay, this turned out.
I was just going to add on to that. You got to have faith in yourself, right? I guess it's part of who I am, that I believe that anybody can set their mind to a goal, given that it's the right goal and that you have the right mental attitude toward it. You can do it. I am so far from the best guitarist. I'm so far from the most mediocre guitarist. But the way that I have learned how to plug those skills, however limited, into my engineering skills and come up with something that is way beyond what I could have originally done on just the guitar.
I never think I'm going to be the best at anything, or even, as you said, like even mediocre at anything. What it boils down to, in my opinion, is the song and the passion behind it, and even the confidence. Because like you look at the White Stripes, like Meg is not the best drummer. She's not even the most remotely mediocre drummer. But she's played on some of like the most popular songs in the past, like ever. I went to a music school pretty much, and I sat next to people that were like crazy gospel singers and like finger picking guitarists, steel pedal players. And I'm like, I know I'm never going to be able to do that. So just to see their confidence in what they do, if they have a voice crack, they're like, they own it, and they perform, and they're confident, and it's not ego. It's just like, it just comes from them. I mean, if anyone's listening that wants to pick up an instrument, just do it. I mean, as long as you're having fun, and if you want to write a song, then just write a song. You're not going to be the best.
Yeah.
I could not pick out a Grateful Dead song in a lineup. I just couldn't. They've got too many songs. It's really hard for me to bite that sandwich. It's too big. There's a quote by Jerry Garcia that says, "Sometimes I feel too in love with the guitar, and I have to put it down and remember that it's about the song." You know, and I love that mindset from somebody who's well respected as a phenomenal guitar player, you know. Because it's true, man. Like there are songs with two chords that rock.
In my experience, and this isn't, it could be true, it could not. It's just kind of like me pontificating. But if something creeps into my songs, like I try something and I really want to make it work, and it just doesn't, then it's there's a certain amount of like you said, you love your guitar too much. It's like I really want to put that in, but it's not going where the song is headed. So I've either got to turn that ship toward that part, or I've got to let it go. I've got to just say, sorry, I can't do that because it's not what the song is speaking to.
Yeah. It's all about looking at the big picture too, kind of as a one-man band. You have a lot of responsibility, and I think with that also, because you're the only one doing everything, you have to kind of make those decisions all by yourself, which kind of puts a lot of pressure. You can run around in circles.
One thing that I realized, because drums are my primary instrument, and starting that way each time, I will sit and I'll hear this song. I'll hear this melody of the song that I want to play in my head, and I'll so that I can play drums along to it and record these drums. And I will do it until I am so angry that I have to go like away from my drums, and I'm like, why do I hate this song? Like, I like the song, why do I hate it? And then I'll come back the next day and I'll do it at half the tempo, and I'm like, I love this song again. You know, because I'm just stuck on an idea, and I'm unwilling to let it go. I got that hard brain. I got to get a softer brain, you know. What would you say to any artist anywhere on their journey?
Focus on what you can do, not what you can't. Many have spoken. I'm looking at my albums. The first album I did is entitled Overcome, and no guitars on that album are real. All the guitars are fake and horrible. And at the time I thought, oh dude, I can do this. I can play guitar on the keyboard. Pretty soon that wasn't cutting mustard anymore. I wanted a sound that this canned guitar couldn't do. And so my only option was to go out and try to find somebody who had a like mind and who I could basically just use as a guitarist robot. And nobody wants to do that. But I learned how to play guitar, and I never thought I would. I never wanted to, and now I really enjoy playing the guitar and bass. I love the bass. Another thing I would say is don't let anyone or anything tell you what your music should sound like. Just don't. Because then you're gonna put it in a box, and maybe that box doesn't include you. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And man, some of the most sweet experiences that I've ever had is writing a song and then listening to it and thinking, oh my gosh, did I really do that? It was. I don't think I'm all that in a bag of chips. In fact, quite the opposite. I'm my own worst critic. But there are some of my songs that I listen to, and I go months without listening to them, and then I'll spin one up, and I'll just like, man, considering where I was 3 years ago, it is absolutely dumbfounding that sounds the way it does.
Just do it, like in that sense. Like, don't really, and this kind of goes in the next point. Don't overthink stuff. Like if you're learning guitar or whatever, yeah, it's intimidating, and there's with anything that you're learning, there's a curve, and a lot of that can be very like demotivating. But you just got to push through that beginning, and then as soon as you start getting to a point where you're like, I'm doing something that sounds cool, and then you get motivated, and then that kind of like snowballs, and you start doing more and kind of like learning more.
My rule for myself, rule of 3, I have when I feel like there's nothing else I can do on a song, or if I'm just going in circles, I have 3 people that I send my song to. I have my very good friend Joey, who is like my co-producer. He helps track most of the instruments, the drums and vocals. We graduated at the same time, and he has an audio degree. So he knows when something doesn't sound right technically. He does EDM production, so he doesn't necessarily know rock that well, which is, I think, better. So he just hears like frequencies that are off or mixing and levels, and he'll tell me that. And so I trust him when he says something is off or if something's right. And then my second person is 99.9% of the time is my mom, who has no idea about writing, about mixing, audio stuff, but she loves the fuck out of music. And she was a hippie. She Led Zeppelin, Nirvana, Foo Fighters, like loves all that shit. And if the energy and the basic like concept and emotion is there, she will be honest and be like, this song I will listen to on repeat, not because you're my son, but because it's actually a good song. Yeah. So I trust her opinion on that. Yeah. And then my third thing, I guess, entity is to post it on a few subreddits. Because people on subreddits will tear you apart or build you up. There is no in between. I had recently posted something, I think a week or two ago. I had some comments that were like, the drums sound great. And then another comment was like, the drums kind of suck. And I'm just like, okay, so I know that I get both responses, so it kind of cancels each other out. So I know the drums I don't need to worry about. It's not like I focus on the one that I'm getting one response of. And so those are my 3 things that I trust. If I can't get over myself, which is all the time,
right,
I just do it. Even if I think I'm done, I do it anyways, just to like make myself feel better. Or usually, I mean, you're so used to hearing the same song when you're producing it and recording it. Some fresh set of ears is probably the best thing that could benefit, that you could benefit for.
Yeah.
But yeah, so for the advice thing, I would tell myself to stop judging other genres that I didn't listen to. I only listened to like System of a Down, that metal stuff, alt rock, all genres of rock, classic rock, and that was it. I was like, I fucking hate country, I fucking hate rap, and I like didn't even give it a chance. I was just like trying to be cool, I guess. I found that there was just something to learn from every genre, even if it isn't applicable for yourself. Because of that, I've been really into like folk music, and I do have some guilty pleasure country songs, and I would tell myself to just be open.
The way you brought up earlier, you have like an EDM friend who he's going to listen very technically to what's going on. I've had those moments in my own playing where I realize not every rock song, not every progressive metal song, not every punk song needs the drums to be 100% all the time. I've had people compliment the control in the kick pedal, and I'm like, oh yeah, I was just like playing a pop beat.
Yep. If you only listen to what you're writing, like the same style, you're only going to write what's already out, and you're not going to write anything that's progressing the industry or progressing yourself.
It's risky.
For my advice to any artist, no matter what level you're at, if you don't do something often like a hobby that isn't music, then I highly recommend it. Mine is hiking or just running on the treadmill, because sometimes the best writing I do is just while not writing, because I'm sitting down with my guitar and I'm like, I'm just waiting for something to happen. Like, all right, here we go. Come on. Like, come on, fingers, do something. But sometimes when I'm just hiking, I turn my phone off. I'm just in nature. An idea pops in my head. I'm like, holy shit, where'd that come from? And then another one and another one. And I'm kind of like, oh my God, let me turn my phone back on and like hum it into my phone so I remember. So yeah, it's just like letting yourself be open to other things kind of lets your brain relax, like your music writing muscle, I guess.
Taking breaks is something that I wish I just started doing a lot more of in work or even like school. Like it becomes that kind of illusion that, oh, if I take a break, I'm going to lose, I guess.
You lose steam and all that.
Agreed.
Yeah.
There are times when I've gone like 8 to 10 hours where I am just plowing on a song and it is super productive. And I don't want to take a break, but I have to. And there are other times when I am just pounding my proverbial head on the wall, trying to force something that is just not there. And then I do exactly that. I walk out, I go, take a hike on the mountain. I go play with my kids.
Have you thought about making your real head on the wall?
Yes, my real head. It's just that I've got a wall right there. It's my head pounding wall.
It's the ideal wall.
Yeah. Don't clean that. That's my thinking wall.
Don't clean the blood off.
Can't say enough how grateful I am to have had this conversation with these guys. They're super talented, they're super inspirational, and they're super open to share how the process for them has taken shape over the amount of time that they have been committed to it. None of them woke up one day suddenly able to play every instrument they needed for their songs. It's been a long process. None of them woke up one day suddenly knowing the perfect way that song ideas come to them. It's been a process. I want to echo again what they said about rest. Sometimes walking away from an idea is the best thing you can do to continue building the idea. And of course, I'll say again how important it is to have your own people, your own community, your own rule of three, as the FUs put it, someone you can go to when a song seems stuck or done to see what the next step could be. If you like what you heard today, you can find links for the artist and this show in the show notes. Be sure to go and listen, like, and follow the artist where you can so the algorithm gods are beneficial for them. And share this show, leave a review, like or comment, whatever you can do on the streaming service you use. It would mean a lot to me for the sake of the show, but it would also mean a lot for this show's ability to promote these artists well, to honor the time they are sharing with us, and to love independent music a little bit better. But of course, your time is the first and best gift you can give, so thank you very much for listening. I hope to share more of that time very soon. But until then, please stay courageous, stay curious, and stay creative.